however the game does turn out, I mean, dead on arrival before the full game is even out? Come on, that's a little harsh, bro.
For the same reason as
That's a little harsh. Has any I mean, has any game had a worse release than Cyberpunk 2077? You got a point. But then again, we are talking about Rocksteady, who was known for incredibly detailed single player narrative driven games with Batman. They made a trilogy that was absolutely incredible, and then they spent the last 8 years essentially making this, where they apparently were going to make something about Superman, but I guess that got debunked. What they actually had in mind was it was like a Batman Online or something like that. They were gonna make like a Batman like multiplayer thing, um, and I guess that got canned. So then they ended up making, the Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, right? And I, I mean, being that it is a looter shooter, and people from the betas have said that it is kind of like following in the footsteps of, I mean, then again, it's a beta, right? But following in the footsteps kind of like Marvel's Avengers, right? A lot of people are disappointed with Rocksteady that they went from, the single player narrative driven game type to now a looter shooter open world Sunset Overdrive style game, right? With like apparently a crazy UI. But I mean, at the end of the day, Rocksteady is just a developer, right? They're not the publisher. The publisher normally pulls the strings and tells them what to do. So, is it Rocksteady's fault? Like, like.
But will it be any good?
Also, IGN said they didn't like the Flash fight because he was, quote, too fast. Like, bro, of course he's really fast. He's the MF in Flash. Yeah, I've been hearing so many complaints about that. And it's like, dude, how do you balance the Flash and like not make him fast? He's the Flash. Like, so many complaints about the Flash boss fight. And it's like, dude, he's the Flash. He's literally the Flash. He can dodge bullets. He can move faster than the speed of light, faster than the speed of sound. He's like, he's the Flash. Of course he's going to be a fast boss fight. He's going to be hard to catch, right? Like that makes sense. How do you balance that, right? But then again, like a lot of people are saying like, how do you balance Superman, right? A lot of people were saying like, how do you balance Superman, and how do you make him like not crazy OP, right? Because again, it got debunked, but apparently they were going to work on like a Superman game, right? And it's like, okay, if you're going to work on a Superman game, how do you make him not OP, right? Because apparently there was a game way back in the day that Superman didn't have a health bar, but the city had a health bar. Like apparently he literally couldn't take damage, but the city could. So you had to be really careful with how much damage you dealt to the city, right? But here's my thing. If you want to make a Superman game, I was talking about this in Hisasuke's chat. If you want to make a Superman game, make him a kid. Go through his entire origin story. Do the entire story like Batman. Do the Batman narrative, okay? But Superman. Make him a kid. Start him out young. He doesn't know his powers yet. He's confused. Throughout the game, he gets stronger, but he has to focus his hearing. He has to focus his laser eyes. He has to focus how to fly. He's going to fall a bunch of times, right? Make it narrative driven. He's learning about Krypton. Like, if you make a story driven, narrative driven Superman game where he's not OP until the end of the game and he has to fight Zod or something like that, someone who can freaking, do just as much damage as he does, right? If you make it like that and the entire game is building up to his full potential, the game would be dope. The game would be so freaking cool, bro. Like genuinely, if you, sorry, I'm so sorry. If you make a Superman game and you focus on his upbringing and how he landed on Earth, like it might seem like mundane, right? But like he's he's a farmer. He starts out, he's on a farm, he's on a ranch. Do you know how cool it would be to be a young Superman and he's over there freaking lifting tractors and repairing tractors with his like adopted dad, and he's like, do you know how cool that would be to do a full narrative? Like, I don't know if anybody would actually enjoy that. I would enjoy learning Clark's entire history and in learning his entire, story, right? I think that'd be dope. Like, if you talk about his entire life and you like gradually level him up to, and like, don't make it like looter shooter, don't make it like, crazy like tree building or anything like that, right? Like, make it minimal, simplistic for the most part, right? But give him the ability to grow and get stronger throughout the game and do side quests and, go throughout this massive open world or kind of linear gameplay, whatever it may be, right? Maybe open world doesn't open until, later in the game or something, right? Where he can start flying, right? And then he can start, maybe picking up side quests, save a cat out of a tree. He's doing the due diligence of like young Superman, right? Like, he's taking on the little tasks. He's imprinting in people's minds that he's the hero, right? Like, he's becoming the savior of humanity, right? Like, if you do that, that could be dope. That could be really cool, right? But if you make if you make a looter shooter of Superman, or you make like something like that, it's not gonna be cool. It's not gonna be well received, right? Which excuse me, which is where I'm interested with the Wolverine game. I'm interested with the Wolverine game. I know a lot of information about I'm so sorry. I know a lot of information got leaked about the Wolverine game, and it's not cool that the information, number one, got leaked, but also the information of the employees and like all of their credentials got leaked. That's not cool at all. Like, seriously, that should be like jail time for who leaked that. That's not cool at all. But what do you call it? They're talking about like a narrative story for Wolverine, right? They're talking about a narrative story for Wolverine, and they're going to be doing a like, you're learning to, I don't know, use his adamantium claws, and you're coming into the understanding of being Wolverine and that kind of stuff, right? But the gameplay, as far as the leaks, right? I guess it's like super pre-alpha or something like that. A lot of people were saying that it kind of looks like, what do you call it? It kind of looks like, what's the Last of Us. They said it kind of looks like The Last of Us with like weird climbing mechanics where he sticks his claws into the like hillside that he's climbing up or something like that, right? And like different kind of stuff like that. But I mean, it looked like, from the gameplay that I saw, again, I know it's probably like super pre-alpha, right? Number one, it's not finished, so that's not the finished product, right? But also on top of that, like, they have so much to build upon, and if they are going to be doing this massive narrative story, I think it could be dope, right? I genuinely think it could be dope. And if they do anything that I said, like, obviously I know Wolverine is not Superman, but if they do what I kind of explained with Superman, if they do that with Wolverine, that'd be dope. Like, explain his upbringing, like do kind of what they did with the movies where they explain how he gets the adamantium, meeting Stryker, busting out of the facility, and all, like do his whole upbringing, do his entire freaking story all the way up until the point where he's fully grown and he's got the adamantium claws, and he's got different suits that he can pick between, and he's meeting different X-Men or doing side quests and missions with them, or like do that kind of stuff, and it could be freaking dope. Like, it could be freaking sick, right? But yeah, I don't know. That's just interesting thought that popped up in my noodle. I don't know. Yeah. Sen says the publisher is the one who rushes, therefore the one who ruins. Unfortunately so, yes. Crow says it's making it beatable for the player without taking away too much of a challenge. Yes, true, very true. That's another thing. Obviously, Superman is way different from Geralt, right? Like, not even in the same league. It's not even close, right? But Geralt is a superhuman. He is a mutated human. He has incredible sight. He has incredible hearing. He has incredible senses just in general. He's like super strong, right? But the game on Death March and enemy upscaling is naturally the world of The Witcher, right? That is naturally the world of The Witcher, okay? The game is like he's strong, he's really strong. He's very fast, he's very strong. He can take down Nilfgaardian soldiers with, you know, 2 or 3 strikes or something like that. But he can also get hit really hard. He can also get, you know, someone can like if he's not fast enough or he lets his guard down or something like that, he can get 1 hit, he can get 2 hit, he can get hit with a crossbow that, you know, he doesn't dodge or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's like lore accurate Geralt would obviously never allow that to happen, but also lore accurate Geralt has he has a tough time with monsters sometimes. You know what I mean? He's not immortal. He's still a human. He's a mutated human, right? And he has these incredible powers, but also he can still very much die. He can still very much take damage. He does take damage. He takes damage from the potions he drinks, right? It's like, and obviously he regenerates from that, but like still he can take damage from the potions that he drinks, right? So it's like if they did something kind of like that's the whole thing. Geralt is not a superhuman, but Geralt is incredibly strong. But put him in, you know, the hands of a player, and a player could go absolutely crazy with him, or they could die on the first enemy that they face, on the first monster that they face, right? Do something like that with Wolverine. Do something like that with Superman, right? The player has to be strategic. The player has to think, right? Like, what would the character do? What would Clark do? What would Logan do? What would Geralt do, right? Like, if they do it like that, if they do the narrative driven, if they do the story driven, and it's built on learning what the character is about, what the character would actually do, and you make it like lore accurate for strength relatively, but you also put it in the player's hands and the player could mess it up. I think it could be good, right? Because if you just give the player infinite power, that's not going to be fun. That'll get boring in 2 hours, right? So make it hard. Make Superman be able to take crazy damage, right? Superman can take crazy damage because he doesn't know all of his powers yet, right? Like Logan, obviously he can absolutely bullet sponge, but he also, like, it slows him down a little bit, right? You got to get the character to the point of like being able to, you know, get to that final stage, get to that lore accurate, you know, however they're depicted in the comics or the book, or, you know, you got to be able to get them to that, but you also have to like, you have to show them their upbringing, right? You have to show like how they got to that point. So that's why things like The Witcher 3 are so freaking good, because the player can make a mistake. Geralt may not make a mistake naturally. He may not, but the player can make a mistake. So then if the player makes a mistake, the player dies or something like that, right? Then you're going to try to like super strategize. Oh, I know that I can't take on that enemy at that level. I know that I'm not ready for this, or I need to, you know, put more ability points or, you know, skill points into, you know, maxing out my signs or maxing out my sword skills, sword damage, right? You know, the bombs and alchemy, or like, you do that kind of stuff, and then the player feels stronger, and then Geralt's kind of getting more to the like lore accurate strength of Geralt, right? Do that with Logan, do that with Superman, narrative driven, it could be dope. It could be dope. It could be dope. I don't know. Just my thoughts on that.